Gentleman from California, Mr. McClintock, is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I yield myself such time as I may consume.
The gentleman is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, ironically, this bill doesn't even serve the interests of immigrants from around the world, except for two countries, China and India. By removing the per-country caps on employment-based visas, the practical effect of this bill is that for the foreseeable future, the citizens of only two countries, China and India, will be admitted to work here. Workers from every other country will have to wait many years until that backlog clears. Supporters contend that no one currently awaiting a green card will be adversely affected. That may be true as far as it goes, but what they leave out is that this bill will produce long delays for future applicants from every country except for China and India. Even the liberal American Immigration Lawyers Association points out that, quote, many applicants will now face longer wait times. Now, supporters are fond of comparing the populations of various countries as an argument that uniform percentage caps are unfair. But what they forget is that when a country's allotment isn't reached, its vacant slots then spill over to higher demand countries. India, for example, accounted for 35% of the green cards issued last year, 5 times their percentage cap. But that apparently isn't enough for the left. The bill also threatens our national security. China has been stealing U.S. technology for years through programs like the H-1B visa. According to the Washington Post, one such initiative resulted in, quote, the arrest of 6 Chinese researchers accused of lying on their applications about their ties to the People's Liberation Army, and, quote, more than 1,000 researchers who had hidden their affiliation with the Chinese military fleeing the U.S. within months. The supporters assure us that anyone with direct ties to the Chinese Communist Party is not eligible, but that completely ignores the fact that the CCP exerts coercive control over all Chinese nationals, whether or not they are CCP members, so this assurance is meaningless. As currently drafted, this bill would also result in the immediate exclusion from green cards of special immigrant religious workers from around the world for the next few years. Those cards will instead go to special immigrant juvenile green cards for unaccompanied alien children from the Northern Triangle countries. It is precisely this provision that's been exploited by the crime cartels in trafficking unaccompanied minors into this country, and this bill makes it worse. But the most pernicious provision allows certain temporary visa holders to file an application for adjustment for status despite the fact that no green card is available to them. That's the reason why you've got long delays that the gentlewoman mentioned. The result is that many temporary visas will essentially become permanent because the alien visa holders will be able to live and work in the U.S. as if they had a green card. And that raises an important question. What is it that the Democrats have against American workers? This bill is a direct attack on their job opportunities and livelihoods. So much for the advice to unemployed fossil fuel workers. Well, just learn to code. But all this becomes a theater of the absurd in light of the mass illegal migration that the Democrats have aided, abetted, and encouraged since they reversed the Trump border measures that have finally secured our borders. It was no coincidence that as the flood of illegal migration slowed to a trickle, working-class families saw their biggest wage gains in decades, and the income gap between rich and poor began to narrow. Now that the borders have been collapsed by the Democrats, those wage gains have been wiped out as millions of illegal aliens are deliberately allowed into the country to compete with those struggling American families, and the Democrats remain silent on this continuing crisis. The American people had trusted the Democrats to look out for their interests, and they're now discovering how tragically misplaced that trust has been. That's the crux of this bill, a big, fat middle finger to America's working families. And I'm afraid that won't change until the people responsible for these policies are turned out of office. I reserve the balance of my time.